This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. Hope my screen is visible to you. I'm sharing my PPT. Hope that is also visible to you.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, if all of you who were there in the last class, you might remember that we were discussing about the importance of TypeScript, right? And how it is different from JavaScript. And we also shared a live example with a function called greet, right? Are you guys able to recollect? So, today's session we
I have
actually,
a question.
yeah, question already. Okay.
Yeah, yesterday, like I was trying to install
Mm,
two things. I have a problem. Package
okay.
JSON, like on the
Yeah, yeah.
package JSON description is showing for you for the common JS is displaying. Is that the
Mm-hmm.
problem?
No, that is not a problem. That is just another type of compiler. So you have CommonJS, ES 2016, ES Next, right? So any one is fine. You have CommonJS, that is also fine.
Okay. My next question is when I try to do the lesson JS, the one number
Mm-hmm.
one you showed, right? Like this is my
Mm-hmm.
first session.
Yeah, just the log output. Okay.
Uh-huh. I get running and then done. I'm not getting the output.
You are not getting the output in the sense you did not see any output in your console run with any text coming up. Is it?
Correct.
So did you follow that video completely? Like I had also mentioned that you may have to also install TS node, I believe, and that is what the
I
problem
did
is.
everything. I sent you the
Okay.
email with the screenshot, and then my like a terminal, whatever I just updated, and then whatever I'm getting the output screenshot, everything.
Mm.
But nobody
Okay.
responded in the email.
Sure,
Sujata,
we'll
actually, I was also getting the same issue. So what I did, I just restarted my VS and closed everything and opened everything and I saved it again. Then it was working fine for me.
I did the same thing. I shut down and then restarted everything.
okay, class. Sorry to interrupt you guys. We will talk about that at the end of the session. So in
Okay.
yesterday's class also, I saw like some of the students were facing some issue like your PowerShell was not allowing you to execute NPM scripts, right? That was one of the issues that colleagues were facing. So the thing is, I think some of the participants who have joined are using their office laptop, I believe, and your organization has some restriction policy which inhibits the PowerShell running inside the VS Code to run NPM commands, okay, due to some security uh, reasons. So most of the organization have this firewall around this PowerShell so that it doesn't run something that might harm you. So you can override that, but it's like completely up to you if your organization allow it. Okay. So if you go to your command prompt inside your VS Code, I am sharing my VS Code. Okay. So this is the command that you need to run, which is get hyphen execution policy. Okay, and if the output, if you are receiving as a remotely signed, that means every npm command you are running using the PowerShell option over here will be executed. And if you want to set it, you can do it by running this command. So I will share it in the chat, but make sure you are using your personal laptop, because if you are using your company owned laptop, right, there might be some restriction, and it is not suggested that you override organization level of policies implemented in your laptop. So this might be one of the reasons. So if still in your personal laptop you guys are facing this issue, you can go ahead and run this command that I've paste it in the chat, okay, and you can do it. So that was one of the queries. I think some of them had, I believe, npm commandlet. I think this was the error, right? Running script is disabled on the system means PowerShell security settings are preventing the execution. So this is an org level prevention that your company might have done. So any
Yes,
of you were facing this issue?
yes, I was facing this issue when I was
Okay. Uh,
installing VS Code and sorry, Playwright, and then I passed this command in prompt,
okay.
get execution policy, and then it worked. Then I was able
Okay,
to
great.
run Playwright script in VS Code.
Okay, great. So anyone else who might be facing this, please run this, but make sure your organization is okay if you run this in your computer. Okay. So that's like a fair warning I'm giving you as a heads up. Okay, so let's get started. I mean, okay. One of the colleagues were facing some issue with their installation, right? It might be like your VS Code is running on an old cache, so make a complete restart and try to restart your system as well because I don't think anyone else is facing such issue. So it's like case to case basis.
Okay.
Okay. So today's yesterday I showed you a example. Let us walk through that example again. Okay. So where I created a method called greet and I was passing a parameter as name, which is supposed to be string. But even if you pass number, JavaScript is unable to identify it, and only in runtime it throws me the error, right? We saw this example, right? I will rerun it for you. So in compile time, I do not see any issue, but in runtime, we were always seeing one problem, right? So to undertake that, we also saw one more example in same lesson1.ts file or check.ts file, okay, where using the type parameter, we are able to navigate it, right? So it does not allow you if you are using a TypeScript. So let me share one more example. So if you check my lesson 2, right? So in lesson 2, JavaScript, I have created a function called add. I'm passing two parameters a comma b. Okay, there is no type defined because we are using JavaScript, right? So what this function is doing is it is simply returning me the addition of these two variables. So if I pass a variable say 2 comma 5, so my output should be 7, right? Okay, so my output is coming as 7. But what happens when I pass the second parameter as a string instead of a number? So to make it as a string, I will pass it using the double quotes. You can still see in compile time there is no problem with .js file. It says, yeah, you can go ahead and run it. So let me run it. And now you see the output is not 7 but 25. So what happens in real world, right? So what happens, this is a dynamically typed language. So developer might create a function and he is under the assumption that the user of this function, which is say this variable result, will pass on correct parameters, which is restricted to number. But that doesn't happen, right? Sometimes it may happen that some other person or some other programmer who is utilizing this function may mistakenly pass it with double quotes, right? Or it might get over appended with double quotes. So in that case, this will lead to bugs, right? Because we are expecting this is an add function which will return me the summation of two numbers. But instead it is concatenating 2 with 5 because it is now 5 is a string. So same thing if you go in TypeScript, right? How will be able to correct this in TypeScript, right? So let me just give you an example. Let me just create a new file over here. So we'll be writing the same function that we wrote over there, right? So I will be just creating function add a comma b. Okay. Now as soon as I write this function, right, my TypeScript is saying that you are declaring this type as any. So what I can do, I can just simply make it as number. Okay, A and B is of type number, and this will return me the function which is addition of these two numbers, right? Let me just store it in a variable, say result. Okay, 2 comma 3 console.log result. Okay, so now there is no error because I am passing 2 comma 3, right? Now if I try to make the same mistake that I was doing in my JavaScript file by making this as string, you will find that as soon as I make that mistake, it is not allowing me to run because it is saying that, see, the second parameter should be a number and you are passing me a string. Like you can read through the code itself. It is saying argument of type string is not assignable to the parameter of type number. So the TypeScript itself is saying that, hey, you did a mistake. You are committing something that I did not agree on. So even before running the code, it is telling me that this is not allowed and I won't allow you to run it. So that is one more use case that you can explain how TypeScript is different from JavaScript and why type static language is much better. I hope this
Just one
example
question
is,
here.
yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
In the function, when we pass a is number, and if we didn't pass that a is number type, but nothing, just empty, then what will happen in that case in
Then it will
TypeScript?
consider it as type as any, and even before you run it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as we have installed tsconfig.json file, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
we have mentioned that strict typing is true. So
Mm-hmm.
there it will say me that, say, parameter a is implicitly has type as any. Any means it can be anything.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, and it is asking me that you have to assign me some type. So it is
Okay.
telling me do a quick fix. So
Mm-hmm.
if you do a quick fix, right, even from the usage from here line number 6, you will
Mm-hmm.
understand that it should be a type number. Now I am not doing anything. I will
Mm-hmm.
just click on this thing and you can see it automatically corrected to number.
And it is mandatory to assign type to the function there.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it is mandatory. It is not mandatory. It will still run, but it
Mm-hmm.
is a good practice because you have implemented TypeScript. See, there is a TypeScript when we discussed in the last class was what actually? It is like same as JavaScript but with rules, right? So
Yes.
here we are following some rules. So that is why TypeScript is better.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so that is one
Thanks.
example.
Yeah, thank you.
So also the main highlight from the last class was what we said was like TypeScript is nothing but a superset of JavaScript and that adds static typing. That's what this one line we discussed this whole time. Like TypeScript adds static typing. So that is the main catch over here. And the other thing is like it will help you catch error at compile time. So even before running, if I make a blunder over here, right? So it is trying to compile it, right? So in compile time itself, it is telling me that this is not allowed. So it is helping the developer to catch the error at compile time instead of runtime. Because in JavaScript we saw only during runtime it will say, hey, there is a problem here, right? Not it will even not say there is a problem here. It will just give you the result, which will be a uh, not so expected result, right? Because the function of the motive of this function is to add these two variables, correct?
So one question
So
here, we are not specifying the return type of the function.
yeah, we'll come to that. We can even restrict it much further. So even before I am not, you can see over here, right? I am not specifying in any return type. So even if I don't specify in any return type, by default it says it should return me of type number. Can you see it over here? So, but we'll come to that when we talk about functions, right? We will come talk about it in much deeper. I have that in my topic, so we'll go by one. So why TypeScript we told? It ensures type safety, okay? And when we are writing code in a larger code base, right, it maintains some kind of a rules and regulation which helps even other developers who are contributing to the same project to write better codes. Okay. One more quick comparison, if you see, like I will just delete this part. So whenever declaring any variables in JavaScript, right, what we usually write is we say let name equals to some name, right? That is how we do, right? But when it comes to TypeScript, uh, this is not enough. We need to also mention that this name is of type string, and then we can assign any variable. Okay. Okay, so this is one more way. So this is the JavaScript way of declaring any variable. This is the TypeScript way of declaring any variable. Got the point? So now we will talk about variables, types, and operators. So let me go back to my presentation. So we covered the initial part. We had an introduction and setup that we already completed as part of our last agenda. I hope everyone has now Node.js, npm, and tsconfig TS node installed in your machines. Okay. Now we'll be talking about variable types and operators specifically. So when we talk about declaring variables, right? Did you observe like whenever I declared a variable, I'm using this keyword called let, right? There is another variable, another way of declaring a variable using a constant. Yeah. So I can say age of type number is constant. Okay. Now, what is the difference between when I declare it as let and I declare it as const? Okay. So the only difference here is once I declare a variable as constant, I cannot reassign my variable age to a new assignment or to a new value. So if you check this, like age equals to 35, immediately it says some problem. What is the problem? It clearly says me that cannot assign to age because it is a constant. Can I do the same thing with my name? Any guesses, guys? What will happen here? So this is allowing me, right?
Yes.
Why? Because this is declared as let. So every time as a good practice, in TypeScript it is followed that you always declare your variable as constant. Only when you know that this variable needs to be reassigned or redefined at a later point, you have to go with let. So in TypeScript, wherever you see TypeScript uh, projects and frameworks, right? Let and const are the only two types of variables that are used. You also have a var, but var is something very specific. We have seen it in JavaScript. This provides a lot of discrepancy because now if I declare a variable as var, right? So var can be something what ID, right? Of type number equals to 456. So what is the problem with var? See, var allows you to also reassign the value and also redeclare as it as a type of a variable. So it is almost avoided. Like it is a good practice that you always restrict your type of variables to let and const, right? So you have one more. Now let's talk about basic types, right? Like we talked about string, number. Okay, there is one more basic type called Boolean. So I can say that let is enrolled. So considering not all students enrolled, so this can be a Boolean, right? I can assign it to as true or false. Okay. Now what is the power of Boolean? The power of Boolean is like only true or false can be assigned to this variable. So that's why we use Boolean. And this can also be used to check various conditions when you're writing any programs. Now let us quickly walk through some of the operators that we have to be knowing beforehand when we talk about different types of loops. So you have operators, right? Are you guys aware of any kind of operators used in any programming language or in general? You might have
Arithmetic
used in yours. Yeah, that's right. So you have arithmetic
Logical
operator.
operators,
and
conditional.
you unary also.
Yeah, that's right. So arithmetic operators are basically all the math functions that you perform, right? You can have addition, you can have subtraction, you can have multiplication, division, you can find modulus, right? There is one more operator which is like throughout the programming world, I would say very commonly used, which is the comparison operator, right? Because we find some value and then we compare it with something and we get some condition, right? So that is comparison operator. So it's like assigning any value, checking whether it is the value is greater than some value, less than some value, right? Comparing one value with some other value. Then you have logical operators. I think someone already answered logical operators, right? So those are nothing but we can also combine the two comparison, right? I can say that A should be greater than B and also greater than 0. Say there are two numbers 2 and 3. I can say 3 is greater than 2 and also 3 is greater than 0, right? So you can add and also or operators as well, right? So or you have to use two pipe operators, okay? This pipe symbol you will find it above the enter. You have to use shift plus the backslash keyword to get to this pipe operator. Okay, so let us see some quick examples of using arithmetic operator in combination with comparison, right? So if I do a simple console.log, right? Let me just declare two variables. Say let a is equals to 25, let b equals to 27. Now I can apply arithmetic operator directly on these two variables, right? I can simply say a plus b. Okay, and this will give me the addition of 25 plus 27, correct? Okay, which is 52. Okay, so if I just ask you what will be this output, right? If I say b greater than a, so what will be the output of this condition in the console? What is the check that we are making here? We are basically checking whether b is greater than a, right? And if this condition is true,
Boolean, true
yeah,
or false. Yeah.
correct. So true is written because 27 is greater than 25, right? So here itself we can put the logical operator. So I can also say b is greater than a. Also check, right, whether b is greater than 0, correct? So here, if these two conditions are getting satisfied, then only the output of that condition will come over here, correct? I might also be providing an extra bracket over here, not really required, but as a good practice and a good code reading, right? It is always asked for the programmers that you put each condition inside uh, one semicircle brackets, okay? It just enhances the code readability. Now this is not getting compiled. So what might be the reason there?
The data type topic, sir.
Data type?
What is the error?
Yeah, it's a false error, I believe. It's a cannot find B. Okay, I will come to this later. This shouldn't be the case. So we just talked about different types of operators and logical operators in this example. Okay. Now, have you guys heard about arrays? No, right? So if I just say let name of type, okay, this issue of name causing this issue. Do you know what is the reason over here? Because it's saying that you cannot redeclare it. Why? Because when I compile this lesson2.ts, right, it gets compiled to lesson2.js, and we already have a name called variable called name. So let me just change it over here for our sake. Okay.
So is there any workaround for this other than changing the name? We have to
No,
delete
because
lesson
see,
2.js.
yeah, we can also delete lesson2.js. Or the other thing is like you just redeclare a variable with a different name. Normally, we do not use name because name is also a keyword used inside TypeScript and Java. So you can give some feasible name, right? Like username something, which is of type number. Okay. Now, if I just put username as string, I'm able to insert only single username, right? Say John. Now, what if I want to store a number of username? Like not a single username, but I should have John, then some other names, right? So the way I can do is I can simply say let list of names, right? So this can also be a type of string, but to make it an array, I will just use a square bracket, correct? And now you can see I can store a bunch of values inside this array.
So basically, this is a array of string. Like in Java, we have like normal array that we don't have the concept
Correct.
of it.
It's the same concept. You also have an array of, you can also, in Java, it also you can declare a variable which is a string array, right? You use the same
Mhm.
syntax, I believe, string with these two
Yes.
square brackets. You can also create an array of numbers. Like I have an array of string. You can create the same with an array of number where you can store a number of number variables. So it will only allow you to store number variables, right?
Okay. So over here, like we don't have to initialize like in the array in Java, we have to initialize like what is the length of the array. So over here, we don't have to initialize the length.
In Java also, I believe there are two ways. You can also initialize without saying what is the number of length, right? You can do that also.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Now there are number of ways where you can add to the existing string of array using push pop. Okay, we'll talk about that at a later session when we have a little more advanced learning done. Okay, there is one more type which is rarely used when we talk about automation testing, but it's also a good thing to learn, which is tuples. Okay, so tuples, what is the difference between a tuple and a normal array, right? So tuple comes in pair, right? So I can simply say let there be a person, right? Okay, which is of type tuple and it has two stored value. One will be the name string and the other is a number, right? So what I can do is I can create a person who has a name and an ID, right? So name will be his name, correct? So I can say username 001 and he has an ID, right? And the ID can be 7647, correct? So what is the use case of using tuples?
We can find by name. We can find the ID by the name. It's like a dictionary.
Yeah, that's right. So whenever I call username 001, I will get the ID corresponding to that name. Okay. Now there is another type called enums. We'll run through each of the types first, right? And then when we talk about functions and scopes, right? This all things will come into picture automatically. So there we will have much more idea what are we talking about. So enums are also a type of basic type which are available. I would say that better than enum, there is the so-called the self type which is available in TypeScript, which makes more sense to me that enums. But enums are something, if you want to declare something as constants, right? So for example, days in a week are something that are constant. Like, so if I say enum of days. Okay, sorry. Vertigo, I have to autocorrect. Okay. So I can just assign enum of days, right? I can say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So these are like constant. These are something, days in a week are something which are constants, right? That we are not going to change it, correct? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, let me just stick to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So what is the use case of using enum, first of all? So it's like whenever I will be calling days.monday, right? I would come to know that this is the starting of the week. So if I just create a variable, say let today, okay, today is also of type days, right? Correct. And this has a value what? It can have a value called days.monday. So whenever I type days, right, automatically the TypeScript compiler is saying that this is an enum member and this three
I can't hear
options are
you.
available
Can
to you.
anyone else? Okay.
Okay, give me Monday. Yeah, right. So if I do a console output of this
I think you're
variable,
getting like, is it others also facing same problem?
sorry, what is the problem? Is my voice not visible? I mean,
N-
am I not audible?
No, your voice is
No,
getting, um,
some time back you were not audible.
Yeah, some
Okay.
time back, but now
Not
we can
not now.
quite
Now we
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Okay, so let me just reiterate. So enums are the types which we use in TypeScript when we want to declare constants, right? So just as an example, days in a week are something which are constants, right? Which never change, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So to just address like saying that Monday is the start day of the week, so this value gets assigned to 0. So there can be use cases where we don't know what is considered as start day of the week, right? And if I consider today as a type of a variable that I created, which is of type days, so okay, type of enum days, and if I type days dot, right, you might have seen that it's TypeScript clearly tells me that it is a enum member and it shows me these three options. And if I save this variable to today, right? Let me just run it. So you will see I will get it as 0, right? Now if I change it to Tuesday, I will get it as 1. Similarly, Wednesday as 2. Okay, so that is an enum type. We can create our own types in TypeScript as well. We will talk about that uh, in a later section. So just like I created an enum of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I can also create enums of string, right? Like for example, I can create one more enum and I can just say payment, right? Payment is a type of enum. All the values inside this payment are fixed. So each payment type can be considered as an enum, right? If I say cash, okay, and you can assign it with some name, some hard coded, right? Right. Now if I do the same experiment that we did before, say let payment type, okay, should be of type payment, right? Because we are restricting it. So that whatever value it is stored in payment type should be one of the values that we have already declared as constant, right? So if we do that, payment dot, okay, so it gives me two options. So one is card and the other is cash. So whenever I go with the card option, Okay, let me do same console.log output, payment type. So what will be the output in this case? So in this case, we saw whenever we type Monday, we haven't assigned any value to Monday, but it still declares it as Monday is of value 0. So in this case, what will happen? Any guesses?
Debit.
That's right.
Debit will be the value.
Yeah, that's right. So this is another way of using enum. Like, whenever you are using, especially in automation testing, right? You will be having a scenario where different types of payment needs to be selected, and that this will be something which is predefined and not changing, right? So inside a code, you can directly call this payment type, and this TypeScript is smart enough that it will not make you waiver off, right? It will say you have to restrict to this two methods of payment. So this is how enums can come into play when working with TypeScript. So do you guys have any kind of questions in whatever operators and that we discuss as of now, especially with arrays and enums that we talked as of now?
Yeah. So when we will go for enum, do we have concept of maps also here in TypeScript, or instead of map we have enum here?
We do have another concept of map as well. Enums are basically used when we have to deal with constants. So there are some predefined conditions that we know. So for example, payment type are something already predefined, right? You want to create a type of payment itself. So there you can use enums.
Okay. Thank you.
We have null and undefined type of also.
Yeah, there are any, null, undefined, those three types are also there. But in
Any null.
automation, yeah, correct. Any is also there. So if you do not uh, provide any value, right? So it would automatically say that it is a type any, correct? Until and unless you assign any value. Say if I create a variable over here, right? Now if you hover over it, it clearly says that my name is a variable that you created, which is of type any. Similarly, we can create null and undefined, but when it comes to automation testing, right, we restrict ourselves on creating such variables. Like you always have to go with predefined variables, because if you use a type of any variable, there are chances that you make mistakes in your code. So you might have assume that it will be of type string, but you have declared it as type any, and that output of that function may keep on change. Like we saw in the example of adding two numbers with a plus b, right? In our last example. So to restrict those kind of issues, we always go with type, with some type. So that's the highlight.
And what's the difference between const and enum? Because const also we use when we have
See
something
const,
predefined or it's fixed, then we
correct.
use const. So what is the difference? How we can differentiate here? When should
See
we use?
const is something when you declare a type of variable, right? You have to say
Mhm,
whether it is a variable of type let or
mhm,
const. So there, if you declare it as const of a single type variable, then you cannot change the value. So if you
mhm,
have a list of conditions or list of uh, opportunities where we can say, right, like in this example when we talked about payment types, right?
mhm,
Also assign it with this type of types, like payment can be of type of cash or card.
mhm.
So I actually had some hands-on experience exercises as well that I will be sharing at the end of the session, where you guys have to work on those exercises. So I have like five different exercises planned for today. So that I wish that you guys will do it at your own time, right? So as of part of one more exercise, like I you can also create a list of array. So for example, you can create an array, right? Say let numbers of type number type 9. Okay. So numbers is something, a variable, where we are saying it is of type of array. Okay. 1, 5, 7 and 9. So can you guys tell me how we can add, get the sum of these arrays? Any possible ways? Anything that comes to your mind? Anything that you might have worked in your past or something. So you have a list, right? So our output should be 1 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. It should be the sum of each variable, each value which is available inside this variable numbers.
So we have to
I
use
think
for loop we can use over here, and with the index number we can add on, keep on adding.
Okay. So
some method or else some function we can use, I guess.
sum function you have to create, right? So what will be the
Yeah.
logic of that sum function?
So
Someone was
We
talking
might
about
have add
indexing, right?
method. Yeah, we might have add method, or we have to go through by indexing from 0 to length of the array one by one, and we have to store it in a variable, and we have to using the add operator we have to add.
Okay. Any other way you guys can think of it?
create a function, pass a like it's in that parameter of wise index wise, then you can store in another variable the summation of first and second digits, like one by
Mhm.
one, and we can give the result at the end of the once it's completed indexing.
Okay. Instead of creating any function, as this is a straightforward question, right? Can we just not use for each loop or for loop? Have you guys come through those if uh, conditions for loops, or we can have a session on that, and
I
I
told the
can,
first
A
for loop
for loop
only.
should be used.
Yeah, I
yeah,
said of
okay.
starting only.
Okay, you did say that. I thought someone was talking about functions, so that's why. Okay, so I think we can have one more session where we predominantly speak about each conditional loop. So we have if else, right? We also have while loop. We also have for each loop. For each loop is something which would be better for this case. Instead of using the for with an index, right? You can create a for loop, and that variable we can take each number from this loop and keep on adding that number, right? That will be, I think, much better. So do you guys need an example of that? So you can simply create a for loop, right? For each loop, right? Okay, I can say constant num, okay, which is of type numbers, right? Okay, now what will happen with in this loop? This num will be assigned with each number, right? So it will take each number inside this variable called num, right? And I can simply add that number, right? So before declaring that, I can also say let the sum of this number that started with 0, correct? And then
Yes,
sum can be equals to
num plus sum.
sum plus num, right?
Yes.
Okay, now outside this loop, if you do the log output of this sum, you will get the actual sum, right? Which is 1 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. So this is the one of the easiest method for iterating through any of the arrays. It can be array of number, it can be an array of say array of names, and you just wanted to print each name which is stored in this inside this array, right? You can simply use for each loop. Okay, there is another for loop that you can use, is that is the for iterator loop. Okay, so for loop, the normal one, so it will just uh, but this is the longest way of dealing with things, and I have seen mostly people use this kind of approach, But the easier and much readable approach when you are dealing with any kind of array will be using the for each loop. Correct.
Yes, thank you.
So
Got it.
yeah, so at the end of the class, right, I will be also sharing you 5 exercises that I wish you guys will go through and provide the solutions of the same. Okay. So we haven't talked much on the other type of variable types there, which was any, undefined, and null. Simply because as per our learning with respect to TypeScript is concerned, those kind of variables are rarely or never seen to be used inside the Playwright framework at least. We, as a good practice, we always tend to avoid those kind of variable types. Okay.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I have one question. Um, Hello.
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
So in the for loop, for each loop, you have defined like num as constant. Why?
Because the type of that variable is not getting changed, right? You can also give it as let. Okay. So I think we talked about this sometime back when we said, right? I think.
Yes. So you told us like the
Yeah.
late is like it's a variable. Its value can get changed anytime. But in the case of
Mm.
constant, once the value is fixed, it if we try to change it, it will give us error kind of thing. So
Yeah, but
that.
we are inside a for loop, right? So first time what will happen? The value will be assigned as 1, okay, and the sum will be showing as sum equals to 0 plus 1, okay. Next time again this for loop will come into array. The pointer of the program will come at line number 32.
Mm-hmm.
Again the const num, the value will be assigned as 5. So inside the for each loop, that is still fine because again I am not changing the value outside this loop. So the scope of this variable is defined inside this 4 lines, right?
Okay. Okay. Understood.
Okay. The problem arises when I create a variable over here, say const age, okay, assign it with some value, say age is 25, okay. Now if I try to reassign the value of age, right, it will throw me an error,
Mm-hmm.
correct? But in for each loop, the scope of this variable is defined inside this line only. We are not redeclaring or reassigning the value of num anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
You getting the point? Here
Yes.
also let can be also be used, but the good practice is you use it at const because I definitely know I will not be reassigning the value of num anywhere. The num is getting assigned inside each time when this for loop is running only. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why even when I give const num of numbers over here, still it will be able to work.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
There is one more variable type called var, which is highly used in JavaScript. I refrain you from teaching this because I don't want you guys to even uh, uh, work on it in any time. Like you never go with this option. So as a best practice, you always define your variable as constants. Okay, when you know you are not going to reassign the value of this variable, and if you are, then go with let. So this is the only two options you should be using when you are dealing with TypeScript. So let us move to some of the other agendas that we have.
Shall we see iterator also now, please?
Iterator, you mean to say you need to see this in action?
Yeah. If you have time, we can see.
Okay. So see, index equals to 0. So indexing will start with 0 instead of putting array dot length, right? What is our array over here? Array is numbers, right? So you
Uh,
can replace
um,
it with numbers. So here what you will get? You will get the length of the array. So what is the length of the array, right? So indexing starts with 0, 1, 2, 3. So the last digit is 3, but the length is always 4. Got it? So
okay.
that's why the length what you will get is 4. So that's why 0 is less than 4. We are meeting this condition. And then we are using an increment operator. Okay. So at the end of the loop, the indexing will be looped as index equals to index plus 1. Correct? So first time it will be 0. And when we reach at line number 41, right, it will become
Okay.
index will become 0 plus 1, 1. Okay. So first
Sorry, I
index will
got
be
this. I thought it is hash next we will use. I thought that that's the iterative.
Okay,
I
okay.
misunderstood the
Hash
concept.
next is something
Yeah,
we use in Java, I believe, where you use
I'm
a
getting confused.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that
This is
also here in the TypeScript?
no, no. We will not be talking about iterator.hash
Oh,
next.
okay,
So that is scanner and then something like that, right? I guess.
oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can do it.
Okay. So I think this was one of the second exercises that I wish to give you as a problem statement, but we already discussed it. Okay, but you can still try it on your own. Okay. I also have one more problem here, like an exercise here. Your question is like you need to define a tuple of products. Okay, so your assignment will be like define a tuple of products. Okay, and your value, this tuple should contain the product and the price of that product, right? So for example, it can be mouse $10. Okay, so like that you need to create a tuple of products. Okay, that will be your assignment for today. So let us, I think I'm not going much in deep for today's class. We just started off. So to keep it on a lighter note and to have a brief of all what we have already discussed, right? So we talked about different types of basic types, right? So we talked about string, number, boolean, correct? And then we also talked about different types of operators, right? Arithmetic, comparison, logical. Okay, we also show you an example. Then we talked about arrays and how to declare an array in TypeScript, right? This is the one, right? And we also also showed you like how we can declare a tuple. Okay, and we also talked about enums. Enums are rarely used. I will show you the other way instead of using enum, using a type itself in the next class. So, so you can see it for yourself, which is much suitable for you, either with enums or types. Okay, then we talked about why we need to declare variables as const as a best practice, then followed by let, and never to use var as a type of variable, right?
What is the best type to use for decimals? Because the price will
That
be decimal.
you can use float also, right? So float or double, depending on the number of precision that you require, right?
Oh, thank you. It's giving me error with double. Can you show once?
Okay, yeah, let me check. Let me just do a Google check. Number types in TypeScript. Did you try providing number itself,
Okay, so
right?
in number only we can give decimals. Okay.
Yeah, did you try
I
that?
was thinking number is like int.
Okay, because float double is something, Java provides you with external. But if you have a larger character here, right, you can also use big integer or something like that. I think I showed you an example here itself, I believe. Yeah, you can use big int, right? So this will be 100 n or something like that.
Okay, number verb. Thank you.
Mm, yeah. We don't have much types in TypeScript, yes, because as per a use case basis, right, everything works inside the definition of number itself. You can have a as a floating value also like 3.14, or I think you can give as many small digit as possible inside the number itself and it will show you no problem. Go ahead. Okay, so how should I be providing you with exercises is my question. Like, can I just put it in the chat where you guys can copy it? Let me just put it in the chat itself. Okay. At the end of the session, I will put 5 to 6 questions in the chat itself. So we have another 5 minutes here. So if you have any questions with the existing topics that we already discussed, we can reiterate through it. So the goal is like, whatever small learnings that we do, right? You have it with you, and in the next class, you have that things in your mind as fresh so that we can continue from here. So that's why I've limited the number of topics over here for session wise so that the learnings are freshly available in your brains, and next class you don't feel a gap missing because we will be continuously going by one topics, which will be a continuation of the existing topic.
So,
With the
should we
installation,
put it in
anyone
the?
has any problem? Yeah, sorry.
I was asking if you put it in the chat, then should we copy? Because once you leave, that everything will go away.
Okay, I can do one thing. I can just put it in our WhatsApp group, right? You can copy it from there.
Yeah,
That
that
would
would
be
be better.
better. Yeah, okay. So I think everyone should have the installations in place because as we are having more of the sessions as hands-on, so it is required like all the students parallelly run the scripts or
Ah,
type each code as I would do. So
I'm going to uninstall VS Code and then try to
hmm,
install. But if I have any issue, how do I contact you or anybody else? I need
can you,
help.
yeah, sure. So can you just put your query with the admin, okay? And in the next class, if I have the uh, issue handy, right? Like for example, I think I was able to help you guys with checking your restriction, right? In your this thing, right? So like that, if I know what the exact issue is, right, I can debug and try to solve it.
Okay. But if I sent an email, um, do you have any email separately? If we have any question,
Do you have the email which you have posted for the training group?
yeah, I did. I do. Like I do send it to the. They asked me the payment, right? I
Uh-huh.
paid, and then I replied in the same email.
Okay, then let me just check with them because I don't know if they
Yeah,
have
I
separate.
provided the screenshot, everything.
Okay, I can check with them, and if I'm able to resolve your issue, right, I can do it because
Thank you
the
so
basic
much.
installation works for everyone. So I was just hoping it might work for you as well. So do you have your machine like on a working on a old system or something? Like what is the spec of your machine?
Old system means?
Like are you using the Windows 10, 11 or like
Yeah, I'm using Windows 11.
okay. I'm not sure. Might be a cache level issue. You can just restart your workspace once, okay? Or
Okay,
all you can do one more thing. You can recreate your workspace, create a new workspace, try from scratch.
sure.
Okay, even if that doesn't work, we'll try to see your screenshot and try to figure it out.
Okay, I will do that. But if I have an issue, because from tomorrow we are going continuously, right? I'll be stuck if
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. Um,
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, just put it in the chat as well,
sure.
and I will check which email. Okay.
Can I use the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, yeah, I can use the WhatsApp group.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that's all from today's session.
One
We'll
question
come back.
here.
Yeah.
Are you going to share notes for the topic you have covered so far and going to cover in the future? So, because,
Do you
yeah,
really need that? Okay.
um,
Because if you go to the website, right, we are going as per what was designed. So we completed the introduction part, like installation.
mhm.
We covered the variable types and operator, and we'll be slowly moving into function and scopes. So are you talking about the notes that I am currently discussing with you
Just the
guys here?
code, like because
Code wise
sometimes
also you
because
want?
it's completely new to me. I'm not into
Okay.
coding, so it's quite basic to it's quite fast for me,
Oh, it
and
is
I'm not
fast.
able
Oh,
to. I'm
I
not.
thought like
No, no,
because of
no.
my
I'm not
okay.
able to parallelly work on the code what you are doing, because I want to see and I want to look
Okay.
what you are doing there. So it's bit going fast for
Okay,
me.
I can suggest one more thing, students. If you have a dual screen setup, right, you can watch my video in one screen and parallelly because from a learning point of view, it will be better if you write along with me. That's why we have this live session. Otherwise, you can always go back to the recorded session, and I don't want you guys to do that. That's why I think with the code also I went very slow so that you can write along with me. If that's a possibility, that would be better. Or if you want, I can just share the code with you guys
Yes,
at a
that would be
common Git
better,
space. Okay.
just for the example, and yeah, so that would be better, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah, or maybe we
Okay,
can
sure.
take a screenshot quickly, so that will
No
also be
problem. I can share the code. Let me just check with the admin and I can create a Git workspace and I will just share it online on the cloud with you guys if you really want the code because I think this code is very basic. If you understand the code right along how I have written it right, you don't have to memorize everything. You can write it on your own. I can check on it and I will give back. Okay, no
yes,
issues.
please, yeah.
Yeah.
One more quick question. I'm not able to create multiple values in a tuple. Like let's say tuple student. So student
Okay.
name and score is one. So I want to store multiple of this like we do in dictionaries. So should we use what separator do we use? Semicolon is not working.
So what is the use case that you're trying to do? Like you created a
So let's say
tuple,
multiple
right?
products. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
created tuple like just like you said, name and price. So in
Mm-hmm.
that, I will store in my tuple products, I will store
Actually, that is
name
your
and score.
exercise. If you want the solution right away, I can give it. But I
Oh,
thought
okay. So that
you
is
guys
exercise.
can
Okay,
do
I
some
got it.
brainstorming. Okay. I have the.
No
It's
problem.
easy actually. It's actually based on whatever we have already learned. So I think
Got
just to
it.
recap quickly, we talked about arrays, right?
Right.
Right, and we also talked about tuples, right? Now you can imagine thing. Anyway, in the next class, I will give you the solution. But let's
Okay,
see.
okay. Let me
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the next session, we'll discuss on that. Okay. Thank you, guys. I
thank you
think
so much.
that's all for today's session. Bye bye.
Right.
Thank you.